Yes, sir. Welcome back to another Chop or Die film session. I am your host of the Chop or Die podcast, Mual. And listen, we need to talk about the Commanders' offense, man, against the New York Giants. A 400-yard day with no touchdowns. That's nasty. Anyway, we're going to go ahead and talk about the day that the Washington offense had. Several different areas of focus. Offensive line, Jayden Daniels, run game. A lot of things came to light, good and bad. But I think we had a pretty positive day in terms of what can be, so long as they can provide some consistency moving forward from an execution standpoint. So without further ado, let's hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, step into the film session right now. All right, so let's start with one of the plays that bothered me off rip. This is probably the 10th play of the game. And starting from the offensive line standpoint, the end zone angle, because what's really bothering me is the post-snap processing or pre-snap processing, right? So look, you get a free man to the quarterback, which is always a terrible idea, especially up the middle, right? But I think the way that this looks, first off, at this point, you would like for Jayden to throw it away. I think they suffered a 3-yard loss, but offensive line had their issues in one-on-ones. This is specifically on the tackles in terms of like the day that they had. Like the pressure, a lot came from the tackles. I think the interior did a really good job on the day with Dexter Lawrence. Dexter was double teamed about 18, 19 times on the day. They did a really good job in terms of the interior blocking the guys up front. But this one I think seems to be a slide protection that went to the wrong side. I can't be too certain, but you see a 3-man slide to the right where you see 63 and 76 focus on Dexter Lawrence, right? Biotish and Sam Cosmi, they're locked in on Dexter Lawrence, but there's nobody there to pick up the middle linebacker 41, right? So I'm not sure if they slid to the wrong side or the true double team, because what seems to be like a man-on-man blocking, they had 2 offensive linemen locked in on Dexter and maybe just didn't account for a second level blitzer, right? So that's the first kind of gaffe in protection that I really keyed in on against the Giants. And this is the very next play with Jayden, right? That scramble that was pretty good. You kind of get a moment where you see a void and he just tries to make a play. This was a 3rd and 9 or 3rd and 10. And he gains 9. So at this point, you see them kind of just give him the lane, the rush lane. But also, like I mentioned, man blocking, right? I think that's kind of something that this scheme is starting to tell me. I mean, it's 2 games in, but it's a lot of man scheme blocking up front. There's a couple ways that you can block or scheme protection. You can do gaps. You can do like an area, I guess a zone. I don't think it's called a zone. I forgot the exact name, but. And then you can just do man on man, like pre-snap identifying the man that you have to block. But sorry, good competitiveness from Jayden Daniels going forward, trying to get that first down, making 2 defenders miss. Just falls a yard short. They end up getting it on the next down, which is right here. We're highlighting John Bates on this play, right? John Bates had a couple good reps that I want to highlight. I'll do it back to back. This is the first play on a 4th and 1. John Bates down blocking a big. This dude is like 6'2", 305, and basically just sends them to the moon. Sends them to the moon, man. Down blocks him, gets him out the way for Brian Robinson. Brian cuts right off of John Bates and gets the 6-yard gain on 4th and 1. All right, and here's the second play from John Bates. I think the main thing that we got to understand, B-Rob and Austin Ekeler had a day, both from the run game and pass game. Obviously, B-Rob over 130 yards rushing. But let's highlight some of these people up front, and we're going back to John Bates here. Similar circumstances, crashing down the line and gets Kayvon up out of there. Now, this is the one, obviously, B-Rob, I think, should have scored. He ain't got the long speed. He got the burst. He got up to 20 miles an hour on this play, by the way. So if y'all think he don't run fast, he runs fast, but he can't maintain that speed. That's all it is. But again, John Bates, that's what we're looking at. Way to finish that. Get him in the wash. Nobody even knows that B-Rob is out the door. Shout out John Bates, man. And while we're on the run game, let's go ahead and continue this. This is a 2nd or a 3rd and 1. Yeah, 3rd and 1. We'll kind of show the play, but another good look from B-Rob, man. Getting skinny in that play side A gap, right? Good combo from Biotish too. Is that Biotish? Let me double check here. 62 and 67. I know Nick Allegretti is a number I'm still trying to get used to, but you see the combo block right there, like very quick action. And it looks simple, but it is a lot of movement, I would imagine, from an offensive lineman. And then B-Rob taking that space, that small space, getting skinny and bursting up on 3rd and 1, getting you 11 yards. One of my favorite runs is a trap block. I think it's like a double trap block. I don't know the exact term, but you see the slips essentially that indicates we're trapping these defenders on the play side, right? 86 Zach Ertz, and then you see, who is that? Because things are moving a little bit fast. 86 Zach Ertz slips up, and then you have, who is that? Whoever the 1 tech is, or the 2 tech, he gets trapped as well. Anyway, they slip up. B-Rob gets upfield, gets you 32 yards using the right reads, having that quickness, but also that burst that gets him upfield, gets him that 32 yards initially past Deonte Banks, who was clearly faster than him. But you see what I mean? Like, he has speed, but he just can't maintain it. But he did enough right there to really get an angle on 3 and forcing 3 to really cut him off later down the field. Another trap run, B-Rob getting you 11. The way they're setting this up again, same thing. Defenders are slipping. 86 slips and gets upfield, right? Sails a rush. 71, Andrew Wiley, and 76, they both slipped to 3 tech, right? And he gets trapped. And B-Rob gets you, I think that's 11 yards. Tough run late in the game, mind you, from Brian Robinson. And then for a change of pace back in Austin Ekeler and what he brings and why we think that this duo between B-Rob and Austin Ekeler is going to pay off, is understanding the differences between the two, right? You see what Brian Robinson brings to you. He got the quickness, he got the burst, and I think those things are important. And obviously he has the power, he brings the power. Austin Ekeler can run in between the tackles, he can beat you on the perimeter, but he's also elusive in the hole too, and that's what are the type of differences that you see from a person in B-Rob and then a person in Ekeler, right? Now, there's not a pro and a con in a sense, right? In terms of who is better, is what adds to the team. And obviously you see this one dive run, right? Just straight up the middle. You get the rookie Ben Sinnott plugging the gap on the second level, and then Austin Ekeler one-on-one in the hole, making the defender miss, getting you about 7 yards, right? And there are instances where you see the shiftiness from Ekeler from a variety of ways in the pass game, but also as a runner too. So those things are important. And when you talk about the differences between the two, that's what is important right there. Another way that you use Ekeler, right, is in the screen game and in the different ways you can dress things up, right? B-Rob and Ekeler both got hands. You can use them both out of the backfield as pass catchers. But at the same time, when you dress screens up the way that they do, right, and how Kliff Kingsbury finds a way to get the screens. He runs a middle screen, but runs it from an angle. And this is a man coverage. So it's a really good timing in terms of the play call, right? You get a linebacker on Austin Ekeler. He's able to use his shiftiness, his change of direction to get him outside, but also beat him inside at the same time too. The linebacker never sees the climbing offensive lineman. Really good job not going too far downfield. I think they end up picking up like 17 or something like that on this play, you know, on like a 2nd and 11. All right, so this is one of the better plays in the first half from Jayden. Now, the placement could have been better, but the processing and the anticipation and the timing is good, right? So you're seeing, I think this is a cover 6 where they're running on the quarter side, right? But Jayden does a good job staying in the pocket, but recognizing too, like how these corners are playing his receiver in his slot in De'Ami Brown and Luke McCaffrey, right? You got Luke running the post, and Luke's receiver is Luke's cornerback is the highest corner out there. So you got a high-low read, and nobody's accounting for Zach Ertz on that 1st and 2nd level. So that safety is well out of position, and nobody's responsible. Well, I mean, technically he's responsible for Zach, right? But you get what I'm saying in terms of like where he's breaking and where Jayden knows he's breaking. Nobody's accounted for Zach at this point. So you want the ball to be further out, but it gets to the right person based on the coverage, how they play it. And Zach Ertz gets paid too, so he makes a hell of a play at the catch point, taking the ball from the defender, right? So a really good play up here. But then we get to the tackles. And part of the story in which I said, you know, they had their problems. It's pretty frustrating. Brandon Coleman is a rookie, so I'm not grilling him too hard, especially going against Kayvon and Brian Burns in his 2nd game of the season and of his career. But you short set a little bit on that left side, right? And then Kayvon is able to work his pass rush moves in terms of his hands. So basically you're seeing Kayvon work his hands to turn the corner on Brandon. He's able to do it. But also on the other side, you see Wiley go up against Brian Burns. And Brian is able to just get him a little bit too far outside and just work back inside using some power, just some upper body plate strength to get him out of position. All right, so continuing on the offensive line standpoint, right? Another play is a 3rd and 6 situation early in the or first half, whatever it is. All right, we're going to run it and then we'll talk about it. Sack, 1 of 5 Jayden sack on the day, but just poor post snap processing. Brandon Coleman essentially lets Kayvon go. And what I think is going on with Coleman on this instance, again, he's a rookie. So like, this is actually something where he's like learning in real time. And this is the only way you can really get the reps is if they play you. So look at like what he's anticipating. He's passing them off as if like there's a stunt or a line game that's being formed from the Giants. He's expecting something. The way he's passing them off. Not saying he's doing it right because he's clearly wrong, but he's passing Kayvon off. And now, granted, first off, there was going to be no way that Coleman was going to be able to get to the second level defender, the blitzing defender, right? The way he's positioned, he's not going to be able to recover. He's out of position in this instance, right? But was Allegretti expecting Allegretti to help him? I'm not sure, but I also don't think that Coleman played this right. I think he was supposed to man up on Kayvon. He ends up letting him go, expecting some type of line game. And he ends up giving a free rush for Kayvon to the quarterback. Sack, and there's that. Another moment with offensive line issues. We'll play it and then we'll talk about it after. Now, on the front side of the play, this is good processing from Jayden Daniels, right? He saw Diami on the crosser. He stayed with him this time because there were some moments where he didn't stay with a route as long as you would want him to. Just not the good placement. It would have to be like towards the back pylon. He ended up throwing it out of bounds. So he got it past all the defenders. He just has to put it in the right spot. But from this standpoint, Brandon Coleman, again, same thing in terms of like his hand placement. Like we talked about his processing at one point, and we also talked about his hand usage going against Kayvon, right? So same thing, Kayvon in the hand battle. He stuck his hands out a little bit too soon. Kayvon's able to get inside, rip, or try to rip. But Brandon Coleman also, he doesn't really, first off, his footwork is poor on this play. He stops his feet, but then you get the hand part where you see Brandon Coleman struggling to stay engaged with Kayvon. He eventually just stops as opposed to fighting to the very end. And Kayvon gets a hit on Jayden. Another instance. Now this play was negated for holding, defensive holding. So the sack doesn't count, but we'll run it and then we'll show it because it's a live rep for the offensive tackles. Right. So there you go. Andrew Wiley and Brandon Coleman both had some set point problems in their past sets. They wasn't where they should have been. Andrew Wiley was working like a vertical where he's kind of going down a line. And then you got Brandon Coleman who's working at an angle. Brandon is able to establish the half man, right? He's able to get quick hands on Kayvon. So you see kind of like the strengths from Coleman as a rookie, right? His traits, right? He has really good punch timing. He's quick with his hands. But the problem here is the grip strength, right? So like he's engaged, he just has to lock him up. And that's no Brian Burns is who he's going up against in this rep. Brian Burns is not a terrible pass rush. He's really good. So we're not criticizing Coleman in terms of like, this is a sorry player that he's going up against. It's more so like recognizing where he can get better. Brian Burns is going to continue to work his hands. And once you're engaged, you got to lock up. And so that you're seeing his grip strength is not where it needs to be right now. So not only does Brian Burns able to get past him, he's able to shed the block pretty quickly. And then obviously Andrew Wiley over here, like I said, he's working a vertical, but he doesn't get deep enough. So when he punches, right, it's easy for Kayvon to just get past that, bend the corner, and you get a sack. let's get into the day of Jayden Daniels, right? We kind of like skimmed through him when we were going through the other players, but let's kind of dive into Jayden in particular on these next few plays. It's a summary of everything that I saw, not necessarily the whole bag, right? So let's kind of start with some processing standpoints. We saw some good so far, but here's also some where you're like, all right, we can do a little bit better, and hopefully the experience allows him to see things easier. So we're going to run the play and then we'll talk about it. He ends up taking a sack here, but from here, I think what's important is understanding what's available to him, right? So at this point, like, we got to start using the anticipation skills, and I think that's where we're not seeing it just yet in terms of like on a consistency basis. If you know me, if you're new to this channel, that's one thing, but if you know me, you know I said I love everything about Jayden, so I'm just antsy and geeking to really see what I saw in LSU his second season there immediately. I'm fully aware that it takes time, but at the same time, we're going to talk about the good and bad as he progresses as a professional NFL quarterback. So anyway, you're seeing this cover 3 from the Giants. From a leverage standpoint, you kind of understand that one, with the defender at the top of your screen, Deonte Banks, who's checking the field side receiver, he has his back towards the football. He doesn't know where the football is going. So what does that mean for Washington? What does that mean for Jayden Daniels? Luke McCaffrey is coming across on this over route or this crosser and has nothing but green grass in front of him. Jayden has to let that ball go at the top of his drop. That's what we need to see from Jayden, right? Let the ball go at the top of his drop. Instead, he drops his head. He chooses to scramble. He ends up getting sacked. But not only that, right? You have two options. You have the crosser, and then you have the backside dig from De'Ami Brown, both of which are open. I don't know where his process would take him, but he had eyes, I think, on Luke McCaffrey, and that's part of the problem. He ends up taking a sack. Just wasn't on the offensive line. Good call from Kliff Kingsbury, I felt. And that should have been a completion to Luke McCaffrey. All right, so another thing too, on scramble drills, we would hope that he starts getting rid of the football. Again, good play, point blank period, stop, right? Stop. We would like to see, as he continues to evolve though, look down the field and look where the eyes of the defenders go once Jayden starts moving up, right? They're all on Jayden. That leaves Luke McCaffrey wide open on the third level. And you would hope that his field vision, once he starts to scramble, expands and he's able to see that moving forward. Again, 14 yards, first down, point blank period, you move the sticks. Eventually, you would just hope that he sees the bigger plays that's in front of him as well, where he doesn't have to take a hit, or he able to manipulate defenders' fear of his legs for bigger plays for his receivers. That's what I'm saying. All right, so one of the things that obviously works out for Jayden, his feel for pressure, the reason why he's so elusive in the pocket, is the reason why he's able to make plays, but it's also the reason why he can extend plays if he does decide to throw the football, right? So this is a really good rep from him, rolling away from the pressure, right, and connecting to Zach Ertz. All right, so let's get to the end zone angle where you're able to see the offensive lineman. Really good rep from everybody. Sam Cosmi does an excellent job. Really just taking that second level defender. Why can't I say that word? I don't know. But this is an example, matter of fact. If you saw my last film session in terms of how Brandon Coleman got fooled from a rusher, right? Just able to recognize the feint, but also get back in time, redirect, and get that defender out of the way for Jayden. But he's rolling away from the pressure, feels it. Just slight subtle movements. He's not doing nothing too drastic, not escaping the pocket really and running for his life. Layers of throw to the second level, and you get Zach Ertz the football. He can do the things that I'm pointing out that he's missing sometimes, right? He can do those things. He doesn't panic all the time. He looks poised a good portion of the game. That's really good for Washington. That's a good sign for Washington that he is a really good quarterback, or he can be a really good quarterback in terms of a passer. And what he does right now is lethal. Point blank period. So I'm really happy for some of the instances that he does flash, and this is one rep where he flashes. He's able to get on the move and make a good throw. Later in the game, you see good processing again, but also really good ball placement. Field side read, so that's a long throw to Terry on a deep out route. good pass protection up front. And then you're able to really see the effects of a solid running game, suck those linebackers up. Just overall good pass protection this time. Again, Dexter Lawrence getting a lot of attention. I told you he got double teamed 19 times in this game. So they wasn't going to let Dexter Lawrence wreck the game up front. Now the edge rushers had time. Dexter Lawrence was going to be mad. He wasn't making no plays. All right, so lastly, we're going to close out on Noah Brown, but also Jayden Daniels. This is the most important part. But shout out to the motion, right? Because a lot of people, like, they think that this offense doesn't have any motion. That's inaccurate. We're talking about Kliff utilizing motion on 34% of his plays in this game. Now, he's not a heavy motion guy, and he's coming from a philosophy where he didn't motion damn near any. But 34 in this game was, I feel like, is a pretty significant number. But good rep from Noah Brown, using quickness at the top of his route to really break down the defender. He's not really even, like, setting, right? So he's using all of his speed that he does have. Gets inside, makes a hell of a catch. Jayden puts the ball in a really good space. Good rep. Let's kind of look at it from the end zone angle. Good timing, by the way, from Jayden. Good ball placement. And Noah Brown goes up and gets it. Can't ask for anything more than that. And now we look at the last drive, right, where the game-winning drive from Jayden Daniels. Good processing and ball placement again to Noah Brown. Does a good job getting back to Noah. Just manipulating the defenders in a sense, right? Starting his progressions on that field side and working back to the boundary where you have Noah running that post right over the middle, gets him 30-something yards. Really good rep. Again, same thing when we talk about that offensive line, right? Good protection for the most part. You get a 4-man slide, and you have a running back pick up the second level blitzer, staying in pass protection. You got Andrew Wiley one-on-one, but you're doubling Dexter Lawrence again. He's not game breaking anything. Good layered throw, good placement. Gets Noah Brown on the run. So that's going to wrap it up for this film session. I hope you all were able to kind of follow me as I bounced around to different areas of the game. I liked what I saw from Kliff. I liked what I saw from the offense. You're talking about a 400-yard day. It's unfortunate they wasn't able to put no points on the board, but it's a reason why I think that why they weren't able to do it. We're talking about an offense who, well, first off, they have to get better, and I'm not going to say that they will automatically get better after this game, right, in terms of putting points on the board. But you see their capabilities, you see what they can do if they execute, or what's in front of them, the opportunities if they execute. And I think that's kind of the encouraging side of it. The negative side of it is the fact that you have tackles who are struggling in pass protection. They're also like the line games, and if they go up against defenses who can really scheme it up front, you may have some problems. And I think that's going to further call on Jayden Daniels to use his legs or carry the team because he's not really getting protection up front. This wasn't a really good game for the tackles. This was a really good game for the interior offensive linemen, point blank period, but the tackles had a time protecting Jayden Daniels on the perimeter. They had some good reps, but then there was obviously the ones where like there's some glaring issues. So you got to kind of pay attention to that. They got Hendrickson up next from the Cincinnati Bengals. I don't know if he's healthy or not, but he's on the team. So you kind of have to watch and see how that goes. But I think Jayden played a really good game. He played with poise all throughout the game. There were some moments again where you see like he had the rookie errors, and you just hope he improves on them. But at the same time, he's executing a good portion of the game plan for Kliff, and he's also making plays with his legs if things aren't there. One thing that is for sure that we have to pay attention to: screen game. Kliff asked these receivers to do a lot in terms of blocking on the perimeter. And they ain't got nobody out there that can really block, except for Noah Brown now, who is now playing. Obviously, he has to stay healthy. But Noah Brown can do it. Zacchaeus has the toughness to do it. You know, he's 5'8", but he can really get in there and get things done. But I ain't really that big a fan of Terry or Diami as a screen blocker, or Zach Ertz, who they use a lot in the screen game, and he don't really want to do it the way he blocked. So we got to figure something out there. I don't know if there's going to be a solution or how. I mean, Kliff is going to call screens. He's clearly doing it the first 2 games of the season, but that's one thing as well. But yeah, that's going to wrap it up. B-Rob and Ekeler too. Last thing, I'm sorry. That is the face of this offense until further notice. The offense goes through them and Jayden Daniels and use that to win the games. But yeah, that's going to wrap it up for us. Till next time, man. We out of here. Peace.
Trap it down. Trap it down. Trap it down. You gon' trap it down. Trap it down. You gon' trap it down. Damn, set, watch him throw the ball. We gon' pick it off. You gon' let him hit the hole or you gon' cut it off. You gon' play through 4th and long or you gon' punt it off. Your defenders, heavy hitters, put your pads in. Don't be looking for the ref to throw no flags in. Keep the helmet on, keep the cleats tight. You the type to want to win by any means, right? You should look alive. This is Trap or Dive.